Good morning. Today we are hiking up at the top of Millcreek Canyon. This is a canyon that is just outside of Salt Lake City. Probably one of the most popular canyons for hiking and mountain biking in the area. Mostly because this is one of the few that is not in the watershed and you can actually bring your dogs up. So I figured I'd bring Doug and Raven up and we're going to take a little hike up here, maybe up to the ridge line. There's a peak up here we might go to, but I'm not quite sure. We're just going to kind of make it up as we go. But it is a gorgeous day. It is sunny and clear. A lot cooler up here than it has been down in Salt Lake Valley. It's been really hot, upper 90s, hot, dry wind. So this is a welcome relief from the heat of the city. So it's been a few years since I have hiked up here. But the one thing I'm always happy about is how little things have changed once you get going up here. But this is a really nice time to come up to these areas, especially up at the end of the canyon like this. All the wildflowers are out. It's really green and lush. It's nice and cool. Lots of insects making noises. And I really enjoy it. So this trail has been pretty busy this morning. It's great to see so many people out hiking and enjoying their public lands. I really like all the wildflowers. It's got a real nice fresh smell up here. There's lots of butterflies. Perfect time to be out here hiking. If you ever decide to do this hike, you really can't beat doing it this time of year. Although, you can come up here in the fall. I've been up here in the fall a few times, and the colors are gorgeous. You hit it at the right time, and all the aspen trees are nice and golden yellow. It's a real pretty time to be out. But I like midsummer like this too. So we are gaining some elevation. I'm going to pan this around a bit. This is looking to the west, or down canyon. I think this dominant peak that we're seeing right over there, make sure I get my finger right this time, I think that is Gobbler's Knob. There's another trail that goes up to a place called Alexander Basin, which is going to be below Gobbler's Knob. And that's a really nice hike too. This time of year, that basin is just filled with wildflowers. It's really pretty up there. The wildflowers are really nice. Lots of them in bloom right now. Well, it is a spectacular day out here. Got a few clouds up ahead. Adds a little contrast to the view. The dogs really seem to enjoy this. There's a good amount of people out here with dogs also. They always like socializing. There are a lot of really nice aspen trees, nice smooth white bark. A lot of good healthy stands up here. Yeah, we're getting into some nice big stands of pine trees here. Pretty good sized ones. It's cool and shaded. Temperature's probably in the 70s. Really nice contrast to the valley below, which will be in the upper 90s later this afternoon. Fortunately, it's a dry heat. If there was a lot of humidity down there, and those kind of temperatures, humidity makes it pretty unbearable. Or at least you'll become very attached to your air conditioning. There's a lot of really nice meadows, like this one, ringed with aspen trees. Very beautiful. And we are coming up to a trail junction here. Nice bridge. This trail here will get you back down to the parking lot where we started. This is the old Red Pine Road Trail. And this will get you back down to the big Water Trailhead. I know that looks like 18, but it's 1.8 miles to get down there. With Millcreek Canyon being as popular of a destination and being located as close as it is to a major population center like Salt Lake City, they had to implement a system to help control traffic somewhat up in the canyon and to control potentially competing user groups. So basically you can bring your dog up here any day, but the odd days you can have your dogs off leash, and the even days they have to be on leash. Now this is a really popular mountain biking destination also. They have it set up to where on the odd days you cannot mountain bike on certain trails, and on the even days you can. And that's kind of helped to reduce some of the potential conflicts. We all know how much dogs like to chase stuff, especially Doug here. If you're on a bike and you come whizzing by, he's probably going to try and chase you. Now, I've been coming up to Millcreek Canyon since I was a little kid. I grew up here in Salt Lake City, and this was one of the main destinations when I was young. We'd come up here for picnics with the family. I was in the Boy Scouts, or actually the Cub Scouts, and they have a Cub Scout camp further down the canyon that I had come to a bunch of times. And when I was a teenager and I started hiking, this was a favorite destination to come up and hike. And of course, when I got a little bit older, I started mountain biking, and I started mountain biking up here. And the one thing this canyon is popular. So much so that it was really getting beat down. A lot of the riparian areas around the picnic areas and further down the canyon were getting so heavily used. People were trampling down all the vegetation. There's a lot of erosion, just a lot of negative impacts that you get to areas when you have too many people using them. Back in the late 90s, to mitigate some of the impacts of having such a large population using this area, they put a toll booth down at the bottom and started charging money to come up in the canyon that they then redirected to help maintain and restore a lot of these areas in the canyon. And it's been wildly successful. There are areas that I remember going to when I was a kid that were really heavily impacted. A lot of the vegetation was pretty worn down. Ended up getting a lot of people, cutting firewood and stuff like that. So the county, Salt Lake County, that the canyon is within, made a deal with the Forest Service, and they were able to redirect the funds back into the canyon. They've been able to fix and maintain the picnic areas, the road, the bridges, the trails. There's been a lot of volunteer work that gets done up here every year. Some of the local businesses down here in Salt Lake get together with the Forest Service and bring teams of volunteers up here to do trail work. And it's been a wildly successful program. I come up here these days and it's the kind of canyon that I'd always hoped to see, and that is one that was nice and lush and green, lots of vegetation, wildflowers. So it's been a really good thing for the canyon and for a lot of us that like to come up here. Now it's really starting to open up. I love all these big alpine meadows. Nice little stream, lots of butterflies, lots of wildflowers. Nice and silent. We're going to take a little break. And we found a little patch of snow. Look at that. Not a whole lot of snow up here. Yeah, I think we're going to go in here and sit in the shade under these pine trees. Relax, cool off for a bit. Looks like we have finally arrived at the saddle. This trail right here goes back up on the ridge and eventually gets to a place called Guardsman's Pass. And this is the popular mountain bike trek. People start up in Guardsman's Pass and ride all along the ridge and drop down here into the top of Millcreek Canyon and usually ride all the way down into the valley. When I was young, we would ride all the way back down to our houses in the city. It was a lot of fun, all downhill. Great way to spend a summer afternoon. We're going to hike over in this direction, and we're going to take a look to see what is on the other side of this saddle. So from here, the trail starts heading down, and where we are right now is looking down at a ski resort called the Canyons. It's down there in the bottom of the valley. That ski resort is just slightly north and west of the Park City Deer Valley ski area. And I've only skied there once, but I remember it being pretty good. The only thing about it is it's a low elevation or a lower elevation ski resort, so they don't always get the really deep amounts of powder that places a little further to the south here in the Wasatch get, places like Snowbird, Alta, Brighton, and Solitude. Those ski resorts are about 10,000 feet above sea level, so they get a lot of nice, light, fluffy powder up there. But this is probably as far as we're going to hike. We're going to find some place to hike up, maybe to this ridge here. I don't know. We're going to hike back up here a little bit and see what we can see. Find some place nice to kick back for a while. So I found the trail I was looking for, this one right here, and this one works its way up onto the ridge and towards Murdoch Peak. So I think we're going to hike in that direction for a little bit. Going to work our way up to that knob and probably along the ridge line. But we have a really nice view that is opened up. You can see some of the ski runs. You can see the lift facilities. So we are still climbing, but look at this view. Really nice. When I get up to the top, I'll point out what exactly we are looking at, but just gorgeous today. It's really only one cloud above us. Those snowy peaks you see a little bit in the distance, that is over in Big Cottonwood Canyon, probably up above the Solitude ski resort area. So we are getting close to the ridge. Looks like it's just a little farther. And we are going to have some commanding views from up here. This is the boundary of the ski resort, that is the Canyons. But we're going to go up this little trail here that you see Raven running up, and we're going to hike over to that peak, that is Murdoch Peak. So it looks like we have a remote weather station right here. Solar powered. Relays all sorts of information down to the ski resort. Probably the weather service. Looks like there's another one up on top of Murdoch Mountain. And we'll be up there in a few. So this is the view from Murdoch Peak. This drainage we're looking at below us is the upper part of Millcreek Canyon. So over in that direction is the Desolation Trail. That starts at a place called Guardsman's Pass, which is up here a ways. Guardsman's Pass is up from the ski resort of Solitude. And people hike or mostly mountain bike these days along this ridge line and eventually drop into the canyon below and head down Millcreek. These peaks with all the snow that we're looking at over here, those are the mountains in between Big Cottonwood and Little Cottonwood. Now, I'm not sure what some of these peaks up here, I know one of them is Mount Millicent, there's a Mineral Peak, there's a few others up around the Solitude and Brighton ski areas, but I can't remember their names right now. But over in this direction, those really big ones out here towards looking out towards where that long cloud is, that is called Twin Peaks. Now, if we pan around over here, we're looking at Gobbler's Knob and Mount Raymond. And if we pan a little farther over here, you can see Salt Lake Valley and the quickly evaporating Great Salt Lake. You can see the Ochre Mountains, a little bit of the Stansberries, Raven, and Mount Ayr and Grandeur Peak. And way out over there is Antelope Island, which due to the drought that they've been having around here and the lack of water is not so much an island anymore. I think you can go out there and probably just walk across the salt flats to get to it. But yeah, it is an outstanding day up here. This is my first time ever coming up to Murdoch Peak, and it most likely will not be my last. We're going to kick back up here for a little bit, maybe film a time lapse or two, and then we'll head back down to the hot valley. We've been up here for, I don't know, good 45 minutes or so. Tried to film some time lapse, and this time I tried to play around with 4K, but it ate up the battery pretty quickly, so I had to stop. Anyway, we're back. So we are up here at this is another, I think, weather station here, and like I had said earlier, this is Murdoch Peak. Thought I'd come over and show you some of this area here. Those high mountains you can see with all the clouds, those are the high Uintas. It's another really cool place to go out and hike in. It's kind of like a mini Alaska here in northern Utah. Lots of high alpine basins full of wildflowers, dotted with lakes, with a bunch of towering peaks above it. It's a really nice place to go and check out. This is the canyons. Got Desolation Trail and the ridgeline between the canyons, Millcreek and Big Cottonwood. All those big mountains with the snow, those are the mountains in between Big Cottonwood and Little Cottonwood. Cloud-filled green valley right ahead of us, or in the foreground, that's Millcreek. And we are going to be going in that direction. So on a day like today, we have just spectacular views. You can see the whole Salt Lake Valley pretty well. You can see the Great Salt Lake, that's Antelope Island. So we are going to head back down, and I think we're going to take an alternate route. This is looking towards the west, and I think we're going to go down to this saddle, and there is an opening in this grove of aspens down here that connects to this drainage. And I think we're going to take this drainage all the way down to the trail there. Yeah, that'll make a really nice loop hike. You know, I forgot to point out earlier, this canyon is called Lamb's Canyon. And down at the base of it, you can see I-80 as it goes to Salt Lake. There's somewhat of a trail here, so I suspect it's something quite a few people do. It should be fun though, nice little shortcut. Gets down to the water quicker too. Dogs will like that. Yeah, not too much of a coherent trail. There's a few little areas that look like they've had people walking down them. Enough to get through. Well, here's where we're dropping off into the aspens. Let's hope this wasn't a bad decision on my part. Guess we're going to find out. There is a little bit of a trail, though, that we're following, so I suspect we won't have too much drama on the way down, but you never know. We're in the aspen trees here, but it looks like we're about to come into some sort of a clearing, but it's going to be a bit of a bushwhack. Well, but again, there's somewhat of a trail here, so I think we're just going to follow this. Might be a game trail. I think that's what we were following up there. Looked like some sort of a large hooved animal had made its way through there recently. But we basically want to go down. If we just keep heading in this direction, we'll get there eventually. Well, it's definitely nice and cool. Some birds chirping off in the distance. Nice light breeze blowing through the aspens. But this has turned into a bit of bushwhacking. More than I had anticipated, so I think I'm going to stick to the aspens. They seem to be less thick. But we're definitely dropping down. Lost quite a bit of elevation. And again, there just seems to be this trail here. Oh, it looks even better now. Probably goes to the spring that feeds the small creek the dogs were drinking at last. I mean, I'm just guessing, but it's a good chance. Nearest source of water. All right, so we found this little gully here. I think we're going to go down. It's kind of interesting. We found a little pocket of cell reception here. I was up on the ridge line and I wasn't getting anything. And now we're down here in the middle of the trees in the upper part of Millcreek. And somehow I'm getting messages. Well, this is really nice. Slowly making our way down here. Going to go back into the trees for a little bit. Cool off. But we're going to be down there soon. We're still working our way through the aspens here. But they're getting more interspersed with pines and bigger. We've kind of dropped down quite a ways, so we have another nice meadow coming up. We're getting pretty close to the canyon bottom here, so we should be running into the trail pretty soon. As a matter of fact, I think I see it through the trees. Yep, there it is. So we made it to the bottom. There's the trail behind us. And we're going to take a leisurely walk back down to the car and drive back down to a hot valley. If you like this video and you would like to see more videos about hiking out here on America's public lands, just give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you next week.